Hello everyone, my name is Tiffany Begay, along with my sick baby. I'm here today to talk to you about the wilderness. The wilderness is a word or concept that can commonly be mistaken, so I just wanted to gauge what the word wilderness means to you. Does it mean simply the woods or the forest, someplace you go camping? Maybe it could mean uncharted territory or a snow-covered tundra area or a pristine glacial lake. Maybe it even makes you think of a desert with no signs of civilization in sight. When really the wilderness could be any of those areas. The wilderness is not just that forested area that you and your family take the RV up to and camp for the week during the summer. Wilderness areas are actually congressionally designated plots of land that have been protected from development. The wilderness can be a swamp or even a desert. These protected ecosystems are very beneficial to our country, providing environmental and social benefits. These areas must be protected and treated differently than general forest or recreation areas because they are such a value to our country with the environmental and cultural and social benefits. When I say these areas are protected, what I mean is that there are actual laws and items of legislation in place that prohibit activities like logging and mining and grazing or anything like that that could damage our resources like clean air, clean water, and even protect the endangered species out there. So a little bit of history about the wilderness. Back when this country was a new country, settlement was going strong. Everybody was moving out west. Towns were being built. Roads, railroads, trees, forests were being clear-cut at a ferocious speed just for the development of the country. And while, we are happy that this country was developed, we are citizens of it, those natural resources were being threatened by those activities. And there was a conservation movement that made people realize, wow, these natural resources need to be protected. So there were actual policies and laws, like the Wilderness Act of 1964, that set boundaries for the wilderness areas and designated them as wilderness. And these laws and legislation, they protect the areas and prohibit activities like using motorized vehicles or grazing, mining, or logging, where it's pretty much just an area set aside for recreation by foot or by horse or sometimes by canoe or kayak. So it's really a place that you can go, an undeveloped area that you can go and see what it looks like to not be civilized or developed. So now that we know that, let's try to imagine a world that has no wilderness areas designated. What do you think our natural resources would be like? What do you think that our drinking water would look like if the wild and scenic rivers were subject to activities like mining nearby, polluting the rivers? It would be safe to guess that the rivers and streams would be polluted at their headwaters, and that would in turn affect our drinking water that we get. How would you think the land would look if all these areas were subject to logging and if these areas were clear-cut? I'm sure it would seem pretty bare and not very pleasing to look at, but there's also other consequences to deal with the absence of trees and vegetation. Trees can be called the lungs of the earth. They breathe in carbon dioxide and they breathe out oxygen. And we all know that we need oxygen. That's that thing that helps us breathe. I don't know about you, but I like to breathe. I like my family to breathe. And we can thank those wilderness areas for acting as those lungs for the earth, the green lungs. Wilderness areas also have what we call social benefits. And that may sound like a funny concept, a social benefit. So I wanted to maybe do an exercise with you to see if we can understand that. Okay, this might not be that hard to imagine, but imagine that you had a very stressful day at school, at work, school and work maybe. You had a lot of things on your to-do list, a lot of people asking you to do stuff, and you're just stressed out. What do a lot of people do for stress? I like to go to my happy place. So let's try to close our eyes, go to our happy place. Picture a place that makes you happy. What did your happy place look like? I don't know about you, but my happy place is a secluded, high alpine lake with granite and trees surrounding, no one in sight, just me sitting on a rock overlooking the lake. That's what my happy place looks like. And I realize that some people's happy places probably don't look like that. Maybe it's on a beach drinking a Corona or something like that. But for this exercise's sake, let's say that a lot of people's happy places are somewhere in nature with not a lot of people around. And those places might look like a wilderness area. So what do you think that didn't come out of nowhere? Those happy places, we need those areas of seclusion and non-civilization to feel part of the earth. And they provide a great service to the American people. They can be a place where people retreat to experience the land that is undisturbed by man and undeveloped, as I said. Traveling into the wilderness could be a cathartic, educational, and sometimes even spiritual experience for people. Now let's envision a hiker. He hiked 8 miles up this mountain to his favorite lake inside a wilderness area. He gets there after hours and hours of hiking. He really put in the work to get there. And when he gets there, he finds 50 people camped along the shoreline. Their music is blaring, there's trash everywhere, people soaping up, washing up in the lake, shampoo and soap all in the lake, trash everywhere, toilet paper everywhere. Do you think that's the happy place that hiker envisioned while he was trekking up that mountain? Where he could get away from it all? Probably not. He was probably pretty frustrated with what he found. And what about the resources? Do you think all that soap in the lake was good for the water quality? The water pollution would have made it down the stream and into the sources of drinking water. What about all that toilet paper? Do you think that's good? Here we call it the Sierra white flour. It's not good for the environment. The animals around there will eat it, and it just gets all into the polluting all those areas. So when we're out here in these areas, we need to make sure that we're camping within the wilderness to protect the resources and ethics we need to follow that respect and preserve the feeling of seclusion for others. So we need to make sure that we're not camping in groups bigger than 15 people, and that we're camping away from the shorelines and the streams and water sources. Because we don't want to take away from other people's experience of seclusion and tranquility. We don't want, like that hiker, we wouldn't want to hike all that way up to these beautiful areas or canoe into these beautiful areas and then see a big group of people with trash everywhere, and even the noise pollution is a big deal too. So we need to try to follow those. The golden rule of the wilderness would be pack it in, pack it out. Whatever trash you bring in or may use while you're in there. There's no garbage services in the wilderness, so you need to pack that out. It needs to go out with you and throw it away when you get back to the trailhead or back to your house. Campers should also wash up and suds up away from water sources and rinse off in the dirt, standing in the dirt versus just jumping in the lake and soaping up, because we want to protect our water quality, and those chemicals in that soap and everything would eventually move down to the nation's drinking water. And we want to try to just, when we're visiting the wilderness, backpacking, or whatever we're doing, we want to exit it. When we leave it, we want to make it seem as if we were never there. And some people call this the leave no trace method, and you can find more, look that up, the leave no trace method. It's very helpful guidelines for camping inside the wilderness. So now that we know a little bit more about wilderness and its benefits and why and how it should be protected, Can you imagine if these areas never became designated wilderness? Imagine if they weren't protected from development. Would there be a McDonald's on a 14,000-foot peak for all the mountain towns around to see? Maybe there would be 5-star resorts along that glacial lake that I was talking about. And then the parking lots and everything around there. That would definitely change things a lot. Would we be able to find a spot of seclusion? What would that have done to our natural resources with the water and the clean air and the endangered species out there? I hope that you can see how valuable the wilderness areas are to this country, not only as a place where natural resources are protected, but where our happy places are preserved. I encourage you to get out there and explore the wilderness and see it for yourself, all the benefits that it provides to this country. Get those boots on and get hiking. Have a good day.